Good morning and welcome to this edition of the Monday Breakfast Show here on the Community Desk. Monday the 6th of December 2021 with me, your host, Alex Shimba. And obviously we have a good time. I hope you'll be more interactive today as we get to discuss streetism, and that is the life on the streets across the country, both for adults and for children. So to just unpack that subject, I'll be having in guests that will join me on the desk, and that is the first one being Miss Milaze Shimala, that is from CSPR, Civil Society for Poverty Reduction Program Manager. And also later on we'll be having the two directors from the Ministry of Community Development and Social Services, Mr. Mumba Kennedy and also Miss Moyo Bridget, who will be able to help us actually discuss this quite an interesting topic. And I'm sure you've had experiences, your own experiences interacting with the street kids and also adults on the streets. So you have maybe experiences that you can share on today's edition, and that will be very wonderful and insightful for other people to learn. What are the solutions that you can bring on board to actually curb streetism, and what do we think is a problem, and also the causes as in factors that affecting the street life? So as we open the lines, you'll be able to actually interact with us on this very desk. But before we just get to diving in the very big stake and also the subject of today's edition, we'll just maybe start with a bit of stretch as per custom here on the Community Desk, what we always do, and that is the morning boost. So as you watch this clip, do follow by and also just stretch a bit, because it's Monday, and as you said, for work, obviously you need that exercise. So this is the morning boost for you.
Good morning, Camnet viewers. Welcome to our quick morning show, and I am your presenter, Isaac Matsa. I'm here so that we can do a bit of exercise before you jump on that vehicle and go and do your work. Let's do a warm-up as usual. I'm excited. It's a beautiful morning, a brand new day. You better be positive and do what you know. Let's go. Hamstring, stay at it. Let's do now two each. Let's go. 1, 2, and 1, 2. Stay there. 2, 1. Try it. Tell your habit to join you. Let's do it together. 2 each. 2 each. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and 4, 3, 2. Back to step touch. Let's go. 4, 3, 2. Hamstrings. 4, 3, 2. Back to step touch. And 4, 3, 2. Hamstrings. Matching. Let's match. Lift your knees high. Hip, 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 hip. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Let's do a warm-up. Okay. So that was your warm-up today. And we're going to do something else now. The first thing we're going to do, I'm giving you some squats. Okay, here we go now. Put your feet together. Watch my body posture. Let's go now. 20 at a go. If you can't do 20, please do 10. Okay, let's go. Let's go, mommy, daddy, involve your children. 1, 2, 4, go down. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20. I'm gonna face this direction. Go! More. Okay, 20. Still with squats. Take a break. Relax your legs. Good morning workout, isn't it? Let's go, another 10 now. Watch the space. This is what I do now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Try it. 5, 6. Good for your body. 7, 8, 9, 10. So that was 10. That's the second one. In case you had too much of Nishima last night, let's burn all that fat now. Another 10. Ready? Feet together. Open your stance. Go down. Touch the ground. 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Push. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 20. Trust me, if you're doing it exactly like me, right now you can feel pressure on your thighs. 20 more. Remember the first one we did was 40. This one should be 40 as well. After that, take a shower, jump on that vehicle, your bike, your car, and go for work. Let's go. 20 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Woo! I'm burning fat here. Do it. You thank Camnet later. Last one. Let's go, Team Camnet. Let's show them we can do this. Last 10. After this, you can have your coffee and go for work. 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'll do 2 for you, 1 for you, 2 for your wife, 3 for your children, for my producer, 1. Great. That was 40. So you did 2 types of squats. Remember? There was the skill squat and the sumo squat. Now, forget about the names. What's important is for you to do the workout. Right now, I can't even talk properly because I'm working out. I'm burning fats, I'm burning calories, and that's what you ought to do. Every morning, try this. If you miss it in the morning, try to do it in the evening. Remember where I started from? Let's march. Back. We are winding down now. Thank you so much for tuning in to our breakfast show. Please make sure you need to exercise always because you only have one body to carry out your assignments. And I am signing out. I'm Isaac Matsa, and see you.
Well, there you have it. I hope you were following the exercise. You know, it's important to just keep yourself fit as you start the day. And as usual, Monday is quite a busy day. So even as you get to the markets, to the offices, you know, any business facility and any business as usual, I'm better off start with an exercise. So that was your morning boost, and I hope you stretched a bit. All right, so you might notice that here I'm alone today because my colleague Zipporah Mushala, she's attending to other special assignment outside town. But better yet, she has sent her regards, and she was like, greet my people out there so that they know that they are loved and they are cared for. So she sends in her greetings, and I hope you'll be able to just respond where you are. All right. So before we just get to, you know, to unpack certain things, they say money makes the world go round. And it's better like we just take a picture of how the day looks like in terms of money and the foreign exchange. So I'll be presenting you what the foreign exchange was by the close of day, that was Sunday. So in terms of the buying of the kwacha, the USD was buying at 17 kwacha 0.6 ngwe and selling at 18 kwacha. Yeah, the British pound was selling at 23 kwacha 0.4 ngwe and was buying at 23 kwacha 0.4 ngwe and selling at 23.9 ngwe. And the euro was buying at 19.9 ngwe and selling at 20.3 ngwe. The rand, that is the South African rand, was buying at 1 kwacha 0.1 ngwe and selling at 1 kwacha 0.1 ngwe. So that is how the market, the money market is looking like. And even as you go by the day, you'll be able to know that, oh, so the kwacha is actually selling at 18 kwacha. So that is for that segment. We get just to unpack some stories that made headlines yesterday. And with me on the community desk today, I'm having an interesting story, which was done by Prudence Shota, one of our reporters here, where the Drug Enforcement Commission says it has been able to get to the high-profile individuals behind the supply of drugs in some compounds in Lusaka, through information gotten from young ones found abusing drugs. So it goes like the Director General, that is Musonda Simwai, says it is not enough to arrest those found abusing drugs while leaving the suppliers. And I think that's important. You know, we need to address first the roots, you know, the source of the problem. And if this is the approach that the DEC is using, I hope it will be helpful in terms of just bringing sanity in our compounds across the country. So, and actually the Minister of Home Affairs, Jack Mwimbu, says government had already begun to implement its plans to control drug abuse in Lusaka's Chibolia compound. But that disclosing how it is being done may compromise the process. And you may know that Chibolia has been a talk of the day for some decades now, being notorious and, you know, doing such activities like drug abuse, criminalities. And so the Ministry of Home Affairs is actually up for the task to actually bring about sanity in the compound. But they actually says disclosing how they're going to do this would actually compromise their process. Before I just preempt you further, let me just take you to the clip that we are talking about. Stay tuned.
Increase in criminal activities in some parts of Lusaka have been a subject of concern. Chibolia compound is one such area where criminals are now robbing people in broad daylight. While the area is known for substance and drug abuse, the Drug Enforcement Commission says it has started arresting the masterminds behind the supply of drugs through the information being gotten from the young ones who have been arrested for the offense of drug abuse.
We have also changed the trajectory. A lot of people are getting into prisons, and sometimes the big fishes in society are left hanging. And we are using them to get to the big fish. If you saw the statement we issued last week, the information we are getting from these younger ones led us to a lot of recoveries. And we managed to get 3 big guys who have been behind that.
The director adds that the young ones found abusing drugs are not being left without help, but that they are being sent to rehabilitation centers.
Some of these younger ones you are seeing that they are abusing, they are actually on our rehabilitation program, because the younger ones, they need to be properly, rehabilitated. We are working with communities. If you followed us 2 weeks ago, we were in Chongwe. We worked with the senior chieftainess in there, and we had a lot of activities. What is happening in Chibolia is not happening there, but it is quite in a number of spots that we have identified, getting into communities, through sport, through drama, through talking to them.
And Minister of Home Affairs Jack Mwimbu says government has already begun to implement plans to control drug abuse in Lusaka's Chibolya compound.
Chibolya is a very notorious area, densely populated, which is not easy to police. But we can inform members of the public that we are not going to sit idle and allow criminality to reign in our cities. We are doing something. With the excise, some of these issues of security nature, we cannot disclose what we intend to do.
With drugs being sold in the open in Chibolya compound, it is the wish of the residents that the new Dawn government will help restore sanity in the area. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Well, that was DEC and also the Ministry of Home Affairs in assuring the general public that they're not sitting idle in terms of just addressing the criminalities and also the drug abuse, starting from the suppliers to the drug abusers who are in most cases the young people. And they've cited Chibolya to be quite notorious. But anyways, we better yet hope for a good and also quite a conducive environment for Chibolya as well. You know, I dream of a point where you will go in Chibolya and feel comfortable, you know, to be there with family and not expect any sort of attack or any sort of criminality. So Chibolya is actually being thought of in terms of just from other stakeholders, the government, they are on it just to bring about sanity. So I'm sure it will be a different story the next time we discuss Chibolya compound. Be reminded that we've now opened the phone line that is scrolling on your screens. You know, for those who are watching us from our social media platforms, Facebook, there is also a number there, and you can be able to actually get interactive by texting your contribution there in the comment section. So today we're actually talking about streetism, and that is the life on the streets. You know, we have quite a high number of street kids on the streets, and also adults, actually, those who are homeless, and they're just finding means of survival on the streets. So when you call, you just give us your experience with the street kids and also adults, and also provide a bit of insight and solution to how best the government and other stakeholders can actually address this major issue. So you can phone in to just give your contribution, your question. Like I earlier mentioned, I'll be joining by CSPR Program Director, Madam Milazi, on the first segment. And later on, I'll be joining by the two directors from the Ministry of Community Development and Social Services, those people who are directly involved in the in curbing, or better yet, you know, addressing the issue of streetism. So let's get interactive and you know, discuss as we discuss this issue. So just on the interest of time, I'll get to just read a bit of a background of what we're discussing today. So the numbers of children living on the streets in Zambia, or of Zambia's cities, are very high. It's also estimated that 1 of the 5 Zambian children do not live with their parents, and that's quite serious. So meaning if you have 5 children lined up, expect that 1 is not living with their parents. That's the estimated statistics, and that's quite serious. Now the bigger question is, how do we get to, you know, to have these children on the streets? Is it just parental negligence, or maybe they don't just want to stay with their parents, or maybe they are dodging in school, or maybe they just having this influence from other peers So it's you to actually call in and tell us how you have had to look at that and analyze this situation. So the life conditions of these children are desperate, exposing them to all the dangers of the streets. And you may be aware that they don't have proper, shelter in these streets. I remember a time we once did a story, I'm sure we'll be able to actually play it, along the Great East Flyover Bridge as you get towards the post office right here in Lusaka, where actually the street children there, they actually confess that they don't even have blankets. And whenever they have to sleep, they just be there all in one of the rooms, open rooms at the post office there, where they just sleep together, and they use these chemicals to just warm their body up, because sometimes it tends to be cold. So it's quite a life that one would not wish their child and also a friend or maybe their family member to go through. Apart from just that, they also are exposed to dangers. You can imagine spending a night where it's just open. I mean, what do you expect? At the end of the night, maybe there might be attacks, they involve themselves in fights, So it's quite a tense situation out there. So this actually rendered them hopeless victims of worst abuse, like I mentioned, including violence and trafficking. And talking of trafficking, the other time we were reviewing the trafficking situation in Zambia when we had the anti-traffic celebration, the day for trafficking. It was announced that actually even girls are being involved mostly in this activity. So we don't just expect the male child to be on the streets. They're actually girls. And what is surprising part is they're actually getting, they're having children. So they have the male child and female child, very young actually, but having children on the streets. So it's quite a tense situation, as I mentioned earlier. And they involve themselves in trafficking, they take them to foreign countries to do activities that you might not know. We do have a caller. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, sir. Your name and where you're calling us from, please.
This is
Calling from where? All right, you can go ahead with your contribution. Have you had sure?
We're looking into the issue of people have the right to spend the food and also becoming a speech. So, I want to just look at the education of Nigerian or that activity. There are several factors that contribute to the learning of the state. Some of them, they find that it is challenging every day. We find that a child is really just the child that is just putting of learning the computer of child training. We're getting all the responsibility of the parents to teach. And then the teachers, as they go around, they see it will be better if I use the life of that one rather than doing the rest of that. The time that maybe they will send themselves into another place, which is same as the peer pressure. So that is the child will find themselves or themselves in other peers. When they are maybe experiencing the same situation, for them, their situation could be different from the or how that they will come and they tell each other and say, okay, I want to do this for you, but this is the information. Without knowing the danger of the one information, then we are going to do this for you, only around this and living. They are carrying the body. You said that some of these cases, both of their parents are there.
Yes. Exactly.
So that is the one of the factors. Another thing is the level of which I was saying when someone said on the street. One is the very at home. the kind of vulnerability is fine. Your child that is going to be so hungry, you will see, I think that they are so hungry. You find that you cannot change the way this time. Some of us will need to do the job that is. But probably you want to go for a blessing, where they want to go to the place. But if you change what food you have, what money you have to go inside the data set, at the end of this day, you find that maybe you just decide to stay even around the ground, you just try. You see? And then I try to work that way. Someone used to say, there is no future ahead of you, you can sitting in the grass. You say, don't you take those guys that are looking at the fish. So then when they use their phone and when they use the phone, they think those people on the fish are looking at the phone.
Oh, yeah.
So when they look there, they find the destination is confirmed. So what are the issues that they are introducing? Now we try to it's a way of how to tell that to nature. So you try to get the child that will left to the nature by the QB itself. So the parents are very good, I want to do the problem. Some of the kids that do. The parents, when you get their families, you tell that their parents are going to do that from the West people. But how long have you get young people look up by this lady from America, that was living the middle life, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So at the end of this, they internalize that and do America, and they are eventually they find themselves finding themselves in the people that behave the same, where they find the people that behave the same way that they would like to behave, just like they are people in their family. I don't know what it's like. So that is where those are the issues that I say to people. These are from the business aspect to the people finding the same which are the people of the system, and eventually the situation is top of the system, very everyone will things are not Thank you.
Thank you so much for that insightful contribution. And for sure, there is there are a number of factors that are in play in terms of causing streetism. And one of the issues, obviously, you've raised is the issue of parental negligence. And, it has been a tug-of-war kind of situation. When you interview a child, you would obviously say, no, my parents didn't take care of me. Maybe they stay in a mixed kind of family. They have stepfathers or stepmothers who seemingly doesn't take care of them properly, and they feel no, even the streets are better off. So in that case, yes, parental negligence come to play and causing this child just find a comfortable place where they can feel a bit of comfortable and a sense of belonging. And obviously that's the influence where we cited as well, the influence from other peers, where you just get to be found among these friends who tell you, we are better, yet safe to be here. And they'll go on like that. Life goes on. But you've also touched one important key. You know what? If we paint a blind eye to this issue, it will still keep escalating. And we have a quite number of organizations who are even taking interest in addressing this particular issue, and they're coming on board with rehabilitation facilities, sending back these children to school, and also other programs that they are embarking on. Also, the government has, on a number of occasions, come on board, to give shelter to these children. Somewhere in 2019, we saw all these children picked up by the Ministry of Youth and just providing them with shelter. So a number of activities are going on, but you don't just seem to find a solution. And you're in a better position to actually give us some solutions and suggest, even as we get to, unpack this very subject. So you may be aware that it's not just the children who are affected by this virus, but also the adults that are homeless and they're on the streets, just finding means of survival. So as we call in, let's also make suggestions and also solution of how best we can deal with the adults as well, not just the children. And just on the part of children, you know, there are issues that comes up to do with diseases, you know, because these children actually indulge in activities that are unsafe as far as diseases are concerned, you know, viruses. So you find that even the rates, as in the numbers of affected children that are affected with the virus of maybe HIV, they are actually on a rise, and that cause for worry. We have a caller there. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, sir. You're through to Camnet Breakfast Show here on the community desk.
Good morning.
Sure. Tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
I am Rick Karome. I'm calling from Chipata Compound.
Beautiful. Go on with your contribution, sir.
My contribution over this, as you have said earlier on, about the parental care. The parental care has become so tough, especially fathers, mothers are addicted to maybe drinking beer, so this and this. And you find yourself, this is where the problem is starting from. For example, for me, I would like maybe the government to say this age should not go into fiber, beer, this age.
Oh, yeah.
Put a restriction over a certain age.
Yeah, yeah.
Because when they put a restriction, maybe 18, you cannot go outside here. You should not go to the compound with a beer. I think it can help. Because if anyone can go and buy, no one who communicates to say this child is going to take this beer, this child is going to use this. But if there is a restriction, the age, if when somebody you see the child is taking beer in the body, say no, this age should not take the beer. Because that's why we don't know if it's the one who's going to drink or is the parent. So that one, they need the government to be serious over that.
Oh, yeah.
And one issue what I look at them, these things happen in the compound. So the government, they should not rely just on these people, maybe my organization, abuse, whatever. Let them utilize like the chairman in the compound.
Okay.
So that those chairmen, because every time they are in the compound, they can help them to control it.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes even machines, whatever, those where the children start that. And when the father goes to control that child, now they're going to land into the street. So they need to control Shabin, Kajansu, whatever. When they control this, people will stop running from the street. Many times what caused when the parents start saying, stop this, they think that if they are interference in their life. So they decided to go in the street because then they are comfortable at what they are doing. So the government should empower so much chairmen in the compound so that they remove those things out of the compound. That is my contribution.
You've talked about one critical issue about parental negligence. Now, how do we strike a balance really between parental guidance and also a child who's just, you know, they don't want to be controlled. They feel when the parent gets to tell them, don't do this, don't go in the bar, don't take these drugs, they feel infringed. How do we strike a balance here?
Before I answer that question, I'll give you an example which I encountered on Wednesday.
Okay.
Because I go to preach the word of God in the compound.
Oh, yeah.
So last week, before this Wednesday, I went and I found some guys. So I started speaking the word of God to them. So they allowed me. I started praying for them. The next week I went there. I found somebody is done already. Then I started trying to encourage him. And he started to explain to me. To say, no, last time they got me nature ambassador, they took me to Macau. I and my father gives me. And my father told me to say, don't go and smoke Bunya. If you want to smoke, just smoke behind the house. So you have to say, already the father is encouraging a child to do what is bad.
Oh, yeah.
So one, we need to come out as we need to come up with the sensitization to our parents. Not just to the children, to the parents. Maybe we try to come in through the church. We say the church, let us come, let us empower some people in the churches to sensitize over this to the parents. Maybe those can help. Yes.
Wonderful.
That is what I think, sir.
Thank you so much for that quite insightful contribution. And you know, it's true, this issue can only be addressed multi-sectoral. You know, let's have everybody on board, the church on board, the civil society organizations, the government, everyone to just, you know, collaborate on this particular issue. Because, you know, you might be addressing the children, but forgetting about the parents who needs also information on how best they can actually get to control and you know, provide that parental guidance to their children so that they grow in a way that they want. You know, it's quite tricky for a parent really to have a very, you know, for lack of better terms, stubborn child who just wants to do what they feel is good for them rather than what the parents actually advise them. So in terms of striking a balance, really, it's quite something that is critical. So for sure, like the very core that came in, we need collaboration of other stakeholders just to get to collaborate and embark on implementation of sensitization, both for the children and also for the parents. Like I earlier mentioned, we are not just talking about the children today. Later on, we'll be also discussing about the adults, those who are actually finding means of survival on the streets. So now I'll be joined in by representative, the program manager from society, civil society for poverty reduction, that is CSPR, Madam Milanzi, and she'll be joining me on this desk. But before we just get to that, we'll just go on a short break, and then when you get back, we'll get to dive right into that. See you there. Stay tuned.
Africa is rising to a new dawn of integrity and accountability. Are you tired of being swindled or buying fake or illegal properties? Would you like to sell or buy genuine property? Would you like to list your property on both local and international market? Don't waste your time. Call the professionals, the SGK Properties, on +260 762 166 018. SGK Properties. Your business assurance is our priority.
Hello, I'm Deborah Lukalu, all the way from South Africa. You are watching Camnet channel, not just another channel. God bless you. Stay tuned.
We celebrate for all you've done. Lord, we give you all the praise. Oh, we testify. We celebrate for all you've done. Lord, we give you all the praise.
This is Camnet TV World News. For a prompt response, call +2609 53 995 099 or +2609 62 444 726 or +2609 711 77467. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Welcome back, and I'm joined in by Civil Society for Poverty Reduction, that is CSPR Program Coordinator, Mrs. Milazi Shmala. And on this platform, today's edition, we're actually discussing the street children, those kids who are actually roaming around the streets across the country. So she'll be able actually to give a broader perspective from her organization and how much this issue is. Mishmal, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Fine, thank you. How are you this morning?
I'm all right.
Okay.
It's good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. How's the traffic? The morning?
It's a Monday morning. So
it's obvious.
You expect the occasional traffic, but not too bad since schools are closing. So
okay. Okay. Just before we get to discuss the issue at hand, I'll just be able to divert a little bit. You know, the president recently encouraged actually the general public to actually rate him in terms of his performance in the first 100 days. And I don't know if you are able to actually rate him. Just I won't ask why you rate him that much, but just to give your figure, 1 up to 10.
On a personal, I still feel it's too early. To rate someone. 100 days, you know, even us when we get into our jobs, we have a little bit more time to try and...
but 100 is quite a long time.
It's a long time, but so far so good. Okay,
so far so good.
So maybe
you can pick a figure.
I'll pick 8.
8 out of 10.
Yes.
That's quite impressive.
I'll pick 8.
All right, I would ask why. On a personal aspect.
Yes.
You're not representing the organization at the moment. Okay, great. So maybe to our viewers out there who might not know who is or what is CSPR and just what the organization do, just a bit more of a background of the organization.
Okay, so Civil Society for Poverty Reduction is a networking civil society organization. So what that means is that it's not just a standalone. We have a number of CSOs that are registered with us, about over 73 members across different parts of the country, and the secretariat sits here in Lusaka, close to you in Kablonga. Then we have Southern Province, Northwestern Province, Western, Eastern, and Luapula provinces where we have presence, and in each of these provinces we have network members around. So what happens is the main reason we exist as Civil Society for Poverty Reduction was to input into the national development planning processes and the budgeting processes to make sure that civil societies are very present and involved in all stages of the national development planning processes and the budgeting process. So meaning from formulation, we have side consultations, we also, and then we have implementation where we do tracking, budget tracking, things like also just having consultative meetings in the communities where we're working in, and making sure that we have all this feedback and we're able to engage with government on that basis so that we give our input as CSOs and evaluation. So we produce a number of documentation and a number of papers around these two processes, and it's all about civic engagement around that, and whatever projects we have are mainly leading back to this core mandate of ours.
Awesome. Quite insightful. And I'm aware that you are a person directly involved in the management of programs that deal with children in your organization. Maybe in a context of a street kid or maybe a child who's on the street, is there a particular definition maybe for our viewers to know that, okay, for someone to be called this, they need to be this? Do you have a specific definition for a street kid?
Well, I think the name would say it. The street kid, a child you find living on the streets. Living on the streets. There is also streetism, which is the culture of children having to just, the practice of them just going on the streets, doing what you see street children do, but they don't live there, they have homes.
Okay.
But then for a street kid or a child that's found on the street kid in general, I think that's the colloquial term we use, we're referring to someone who lives and just finds their livelihoods around just the streets, no home, no shelter, nowhere to get back to, and they're just found there. That's become their home.
Okay. So yeah, to our viewers, the lines are open, so you'll be able to actually give in your contribution and also your comments, even your questions. You can ask the coordinator here. She'll be able to handle whichever question that you have on the subject. Let's talk about the factors that actually cause one to go on the streets. Okay.
So I think we are familiar with, usually the first thing we say, oh, it's poverty. It's abuse from the homes where they're coming from. It's the presence of poverty where you have, you don't have enough to put on the table. They are lacking in terms of access to their basic needs, good health, food, and access to education. So, and then, or there's no income coming into that household or where they're coming from, and they could be sent to the streets, or they're just forced to get there to find some sort of livelihood so that they survive. An issue of survival. So it's these ones, the negative vices around our communities, but also you have, interestingly enough, you know, we've been having these commemoration days, so I'll pick from one. We were part of the provincial commemoration on World Children's Day. It happened after the Kazungula one with the presidents from the southern region meeting. We had we were invited by the Ministry of by the Provincial Child Department, which is found now under the Ministry of Community Development and Social Services. Before, they were Ministry of Youth, Sports and Child Development. So anyway, we work with them, so we were invited to come on board and bring some of the children we work with so that they participate in this commemoration in the presence of the Lusaka minister, which was interesting. And I know I'm diverting from your topic or from your question.
Of information.
Yes, so I was giving a contextual background to where I'm drawing this. We had an audience with children, so one of them, with regards to causes, was saying no, but and this is a child from one of the communities, and she's like, it's not just that. You think maybe it's poverty, but some of them are coming from good homes, and it's become like fashion, you know, the streetism culture now, which will lead to street children staying on the streets. They run away from even a perfectly good home because they they think it's cool. To be found, the freedom that it comes with.
Quite strange.
Yeah, interestingly enough. So this is a perspective that we don't think about when we are programming, or we are, but it's something that came from a fellow child who's engaged with others, and she's seen that, oh, okay, so there's this aspect of freedom that will come with living on the streets.
No one to control you.
And in this day and age, you know, some will find that interesting. And because a child is anyone, when we are working with children, we're classifying them with below the age of 18. So 17, 16. Some of them are in the adolescent age, experimental age, and they might want to just have that level of freedom that they don't find in the home. And you find some from perfectly good homes that will just decide, this is where I want to be, and that's one of the causes. So I will add that to the list. The attraction of the stretism culture, I found it interesting, but it was something to bring to light.
Good and comfortable, warm, but
yes,
to
something like that. So.
Okay, so how worse is the situation really from your findings as an organization?
So and I'll be honest with our engagements with children. I'll start by saying, first of all, every engagement that we are having around children activities is supported in partnership with Save the Children and support from the Swedish government. So with Save the Children, we've been working. The way we designed our projects was to work through the structures, or build structures from mainly schools but not really out of school children. So this is a gap that we have.
Okay.
This is a gap that we definitely have. But when we're talking about poverty reduction, we do take cognizance of the fact that we have to cover all the bases. So for us, we'll say, yes, we do have partner organizations that will deal directly with removing the children off the streets or with monitoring how the situation is.
Okay.
But most of our engagements have been in that line of, okay, we're working with the children in schools. The situation will come out, like the way you've asked me, how bad is it? We know, because we've been working with the Ministry of Community, the Child Department in particular, we keep tabs of what's going on with the situation of children around. So we know it's quite bad. Lusaka, we can speak to Lusaka, where numbers do increase. You try to take them off the streets, some will go back, and the government has programs designed to try and I think we've been seeing the efforts.
Yes, exactly.
You see the efforts where in partnership with the Zambia National Service, they try to remove the children, and or there are even some homes that are set up specifically for them to shelter them from the vices that come with the streetism culture, just that. But you see it, I think, with the worsening, with the economy, the way it's been going in the past couple of years, and COVID being a factor as well, with people losing jobs, when poverty rates become a little, when they start to increase, you see the effects of that in the increase of informal.
Yeah, I was actually getting to there. So do you mean that there's quite a correlation where we get an increase in poverty levels and also just directly affect the children on the street?
And I would say so. They'll have to find a way to survive.
Oh, yeah.
And in urban areas where you have no other, you can't do farming if you're coming from, let's say, a compound where most are purported to come from. There's no space for that. There's no other income generating activity that you can get involved in. So definitely, there has to be a way, and it will be begging. The interesting thing that begging from the streets or surviving on the streets. Unfortunately, that comes with a whole lot of violations of children's rights, and I'll keep emphasizing, especially that we're in a time when we've been discussing their rights on World Children's Day. You know, commemoration of that day meant we've subscribed to. We're signatory to the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, meaning we are responsible. Our government is responsible, but all of us as Zambian citizens are responsible to ensure that the environment that children are growing up in it's safe. They have access to their rights, and when we're talking about their rights, it's the right to survival, it's a right to protection, it's the right to shelter, so the basic needs that they need. And if they can't find that in the home that they are brought up, in the society, in the community where they are, they're going to leave and go on the streets, because that's the only way. It might be also the easier way, but it's the only way they know. They can see that, okay, we'll just go beg. The other interesting thing that came out of the discussion around street children, around that same time, the commemoration event that we had, was how it was noted. Ministry of the Child Department noted that giving alms, like if someone is begging on the streets and then you give them, in statutory wise, that's a crime. The person who's giving is encouraging.
I think I just give someone.
Yeah, like, interestingly enough, we don't see that. We're like,
so that was a crime. How much, like,
I don't know about the fines, but this is something that was interesting to come out. Like, okay, we didn't know that there's a certain level of that because they're trying to. I think generally the state is trying to discourage. In the context it was framed, maybe we need to revise it.
You would look at a child and then you feel quite that remorse and compassion for the child.
Yeah.
You just give.
You just give. But then, in essence, I think I also found it surprising, interestingly enough, because there's a lot of things we don't know around maybe the activities we do.
And I'm sure some people are just getting it now.
Yeah, they are getting it now. It's interesting. These laws, so somewhere in one of the laws, it's constituted a crime. But in other, don't give.
No matter the case.
Yeah, like don't give because you're encouraging that practice of begging. And then you find more coming because now you even have stories where someone will come with a whole story, or these children that are going around with forms saying school fees, we need to raise money for school. With a whole what's this? You even sign for because it seems even more genuine.
Stamped,
Yeah, even stamped, but it seems more genuine. But there's scams that come around that it's not every one of them that are genuine. So you have that perpetuating culture of now. You're encouraging that kind of arrangement, and maybe there's a better way that we could handle the situation than. Surprisingly.
I don't know how much you've gone in terms of just exploring and also investigating these causes. As the parents aspect popped up in one of your investigations, like in terms of negligence?
Well, of course. I mean, when we're having these discussions, and I'll keep referring back to the way we would, not even the commemoration, just when we are talking with maybe the welfare department and or the structures in government that are specifically child related. When we are working in our circles, our projects around children are looking at the 3 sectors where that directly affect children. So we're looking at social protection, where you find the welfare aspect, where you find issues to do with the livelihoods of where people are coming from. And we say that directly affects a child because the household or the society where a child is coming from, it matters the access to services that they have or access to resources that they have. So you're looking at that and you're ensuring that they have, so ours is like, let the children participate in contributing to these 2 processes that we had in order for their voice to be heard around these issues, because we can't assume that, it's just children, they don't have anything to say. So we've been having such platforms, creating such for them to say and that's how such an observation came around, where one of them said, no, but some just, it's something that's attractive to them. So then you can design your interventions in a way that are appropriate to the actual challenges that children are facing. So when you're saying, so when we're like, okay, what's been going on the ground, and how has it been overall? I was giving you a breakdown of what sectors. Then we're looking at education. It's good that it was declared free, because then we hope that they'll be able to use that freedom.
Just talking of that, I was actually coming to that in terms of, they've been on the streets for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Others, it's surprising that they've actually grown up from there. So streetism, or maybe staying on the streets comes with a lot of other vices, maybe aware, drug abuse, and for someone just to, be this, how can I say, just remove from that culture, it's quite tricky, and then give them school or education. How best do we just convince these children to go back to school, having those things?
This is where using the we've got very good policies and structures on most issues that we just need to enhance. As civil society, need to support or hold government accountable for or to. So ours is to, we identify the problem. In this case would be streetism. Sorry, the last sector is health. So the vices have a huge impact on health, psychologically and physically as well. Because you're not just talking about drugs. You're talking about early child marriages, self-inflicted even, where when you remove someone, the stories, so there's been cases of you remove some from the streets and they'll go back because, or their husbands will follow them because they're already engaged in activities, sexual activities or marital activities on the streets.
On the street,
It's becoming a family, and that will cultivate a new breed of street children that will be born on the street to a child mother and a child father whose life is based on the street. And it's something that we may miss out, you know, living our lives, waking up every day in a home, you're like, oh, you just see them begging, you're thinking that's where it ends. I think it's a whole other community and a whole other dialogue. So here we start to identify there's different CSOs, NGOs, and also government departments, like I said, the child department, that are very concerned around that. And for us, we will identify an opportunity to partner with these so that we work collaboratively. I think there's strength in working in number, rather than just singular efforts, because what one is stronger in, maybe some are, they've got the psychosocial counseling aspect prepared, others would be good at rehabilitation. Then there's resources directed towards the health part, the recovery part, and then there's shelters. If these interventions are just collaborative, that would have a huger impact, because you're talking about a full recovery from to ensure what you call it, a transition into what we feel would be a better way for the children to live, so that they access their rights better, so that they get to school, so that we get them. So it has to start. It's a mindset thing, because you're not just going to say, it's not that simple. You think, oh, they're on the streets, they must be poor. What if they're not poor? What if they had all this?
And then you're thinking just to remove them.
You just remove them, it's simple. But we've seen that it's been a problem in some cases. Very few will stay behind. Most of them are used, they'll go back. And because it's become their home, it's become their life. And I think I saw something on TV with interventions going on around, I think there's a certain organization, just a few weeks, where they were just, first of all, interviewing them and then trying to get them to have some counseling sessions with them and see how best to help them transition or get off the streets. So it's something that we make use of the structures that are there, especially the already, if we have the government ones, we have the departments. The way we would work with, like we've done, we'll partner in ensuring that resources, where we can channel towards ensuring that the systems are working right. And where we see that maybe the efforts are lagging, we're going to make that noise that we like to make.
Okay, do you feel we can have a society without street kids? Is it possible or practical? Really, because we've been, like you alluded to, we've been having a lot of interventions, but still we're having them. Is it possible?
I mean, in a perfectly thought out society, we would say yes.
But not
realistically. We continue to hope so. I mean, that's our hope. That's the aim of these things anyway.
Sure. And
we feel we could if the collaborative efforts are put in play.
Okay, so you're actually asking for this. What would be your concluding remarks in terms of just the response, the funding part, in terms of fighting streetism, as we close?
Just everything, all in all, I would say. And I'll continue, coming from a networking organization where we work through our members or with partners, I'll continue to emphasize on how working together as in society really does, it yields a greater impact than trying to, maybe as organizations, outshine the other in saying, no, we did this with this group. We did. I think it works if you identify your areas of strength, both at individual and organizational level, and try and make use of that to form a team that will just handle this issue of streetism. I think that's the better approach, and then collaborate with the departments from government that you have to, that the child department, so that you have access to a database that they have, and you can work with an area in a sort of in a sequence that you wouldn't otherwise alone if you just started, oh, okay, this is where we'll be, this is what we'll do, and then you'd go ahead and do it, and then before you know it, another organization is coming to do a similar thing, and you're reporting on numbers, but it's the same numbers you're working around. So I think it's more about working together, as effectively as possible to maximize resources to handle the problem of street children.
Thank you so much, Madam Lazi. I appreciate your time, your contribution to this subject. There you have it. That was our CSP, our program coordinator, specifically on the child section, and she was just, giving us insight in terms of solutions, the causes of streetism, as it were. So we'll be having another set of guests that will be coming now from the government aspect. We've had civil, society, organization voice. But let's hear from the government how much has been done so far. So next, on the next segment, we'll be now having the two directors, actually. That is from the Ministry of Community Development and also Social Services. So before we get to that, we'll just go on a short break. And when we'll get back, we'll be able to introduce them properly. Stay tuned and please call in. The numbers are open. Thank you.
Africa is rising to a new dawn of integrity and accountability. Are you tired of being swindled or buying fake or illegal properties? Would you like to sell or buy genuine property? Would you like to list your property on both local and international market? Don't waste your time. Call the professionals, the SGK Properties, on +260 762 166 018. SGK Properties. Your business assurance is our priority.
Camnet TV is here to entertain, educate and inform you. Catch Rise and Thrive at 0730 hours every Saturday. Fresh and new praise and worship comes Monday to Friday at 8 hours. Kids need to be glued to the TV every weekday at 09 hours for their favorite cartoons. Off the pitch with the boys as they talk about sport on Saturdays at 0930 hours.
Remember, we are also here to entertain you with our different varieties of movies every weekday at 10 hours. Join Pastor Victoria and Moses Chuluwa with Healing Word Ministries International Church live sermon every Sunday at 10 hours.
Katamanda brings to you another journey of gospel ministers on Saturdays at 10:30 hours. The verdict comes to your screens at 17:45 hours. Join the Revival Harvest Church every Sunday at 18:30 hours.
Every Monday to Saturday, join us on the news desk at 12 hours as we bring to you the midday news, and at 19:30 hours Central African time every day for the main bulletin.
The ministry with Pastor Moses Chuluwa comes every Friday at 20:45 hours. On Mondays, it's your favorite national matters at 20:45 hours.
Wednesday and Thursday, Pastor Victoria and Moses Chuluwa are on Partnership of Greatness with different spiritual teachings at 20:45 hours.
And Frank on Camnet comes to your screen every Tuesday at 20:45 hours.
Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Africa is rising to a new dawn of integrity and accountability. Are you tired of being swindled or buying fake or illegal properties? Would you like to sell or buy genuine property? Would you like to list your property on both local and international market? Don't waste your time. Call the professionals, the SGK Properties, on +260 762 166 018. SGK Properties. Your business assurance is our priority.
In case you're just joining us on different platforms, that is on our social media platform, and also on the other platforms, Camnet TV, we are here on the breakfast show, that is Community Desk, where we're discussing the street children and also adults, those people actually living and staying on the streets across the country. So you can actually add your voice, you can contribute, ask questions as regards to that topic. The numbers are open, those numbers which are scrolling on the screens. And now I'm joined by Mr. Kennedy Mumba from Ministry of Community Development and Social Services, the director in charge of the children. So as you get to interact with him, you can be able to actually ask him questions and also contribute on this front. Mr. Mumba, good morning.
Good morning, and how are you?
I'm all right, thank you. How is the Monday going so far?
No, starting on a brighter note,
sure.
And morning viewers out there as well.
Okay, just to get direct into what we're talking about today, we're actually exploring, the streetism culture in the country that is having both the adults and the streets. Previously, we had a representative from the civil society organization who actually gave our side of the story in terms of just curbing this vice. So we'd be interested actually to get the voice from the government themselves, who have been embarking on a different kind of interventions just to curbing this vice. Maybe on the introductory remark, what would you make of the projects that you've had as a ministry? Maybe just a broader approach on that.
Yeah, in terms of the projects that we've had as a ministry, I think range from the policy discourse to the legal discourse as well. From the policy discourse, we have had programming for quite a long time now, which we have been describing removal and reintegration of children on the street. This is where we have collaborated with our colleagues from National Service, where we could take these children to Katete, Chiboko, Kitwe as well. And also our colleagues, the civil society, could also take some for rehabilitation and reintegration as well. That's from the policy point of view, and also to try and strengthen mechanisms to see promoting reintegration of children into the families. We have also developed other programs such as social cash transfer, because we believe part of the causes of children to be on the street, it could be poverty, it could be family disintegration, it could be neglect, so on and so forth. So we have introduced programs such as social cash transfer that is aimed to try and add an additional meal within those particular households, with the hope that those families will be able to provide, the basic needs, be able to feed the children, and also be able to pay for the school fees through programs such as public welfare assistance scheme.
Okay.
And thank God now that we have got the education fees that have also been waived. So that also adds in terms of programming on how best these children could be taken care of in terms of programming from government. From the legal point of view, we have been strengthening ourselves with the actualization or implementation of the law. As you know, we have a very, very interesting law in our country called the Juveniles Act, which is Cap 53 of the laws of Zambia. I think when you read that particular piece of legislation, it's very, very instructive in terms of how to deal with these particular children, in terms of managing their situation, especially in areas of abuse, neglect, because it places the responsibility on the society to take care of the children. So where those situations, we have got legal mandate, legal powers to evoke those provisions in the Juveniles Act to ensure that we still provide care and protection to these children. I know you might ask to say how far we've gone with that. I think come 2022, we have enhanced our budgeting provision slightly so that we can empower our juvenile inspectors. Juvenile inspectors, these are the social workers that are dotted in all the districts to evoke those particular provisions. Recently, I think the minister had issued a press statement where she implored juvenile inspectors to execute their duties according to the policies and laws that mandated them to do what they're supposed to do. So I think come next year,
we're expecting that.
You should be.
Well, wonderful. Well, I'm personally expecting for that.
Yeah.
And we talked of the ZNS being part of the camping of streetism. Now, as a team here, we compiled a story that we went to these street kids and also adults who actually gave their voice, and I'll be able to play the story so that you can just get perspective from the children themselves. Let's take a look at one of the stories that was compiled by Madam Prudence Chota, one of our reporters here, to see what's going on the ground.
Lusaka Postal Service has been a shelter for many street children for several years. We are here at the post office in Lusaka, which is the home to most of the street kids that we see around the city. What I'm holding in my hand is a substance called chenke, which most of the kids smoke when going to bed because they do not have any blankets to cover themselves or prevent them from the cold. For several years, street kids have been labeled names such as criminals, drunkards, thieves, junks, and abusers of substances, but no one really understands what these kids go through. This is why we took time to speak to some of the kids to understand how they found themselves on the streets.
down mukipwe mukwete kuti mudia na mwina yali samsangwati wakata kwempia ba kupoka shanshani so kuna isheko kono na kwenda
you talk about circumstances of selfishness of government. Their fellows governmentally, I mean leadership, they're there because of their children. Okay, we can see their biologicality, even us at the post, our biological parents, they are supremacists. But at the end of the day, we find ourselves no life, we're sleeping outside. But when we see our fellows, friends, their brothers and fellows, they're at school. Others not really we had 6 points at school.
Others have told this reporter that they were once recruited by the Zambia National Service for Skills Development and were at the end of their training empowered with equipment to use in their next endeavors. However, the children were not financially supported, which has seen them come back on the streets.
About 2 years, you know, like this. At the first symptoms, 6 months. After that, I was promised that when we graduate, we're going to have materials and you'll be settled in the capitals and the material. No stop on move, but not that watch. That was money. A president was here for 1 month.
While the street children have been labeled as criminals by society, the children have shown willingness to change provided support is available. They have since appealed to government and well-wishers to look into their affairs.
So we three got great we take the shani, no no boss tiki ufuthi pepera toka tepia kufimbana ida pusha kufutile nsada ifya kudia utra kwano fuera kukuskuru tetwa atava kuza kukuskuru.
And while the new Dawn administration has promised to develop the country without leaving anyone behind, one would ask what plans the government has for street children. This reporter was, however, not able to get a comment from the new Minister of Youth, Sports and Art, Elvis Nkando, by broadcast time. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
That was a story compiled by Prudence Chota concerning the children on the streets, and also we will be able to observe that there were also adults there, just within Lusaka. And Mr. Mumbai made mention of other collaboration organizations like the ZNS, where you get to get these children for training. But we've seen that after a long time they've come back on the streets. The question is, what do you make of that? But before you comment, let me just make mention that the numbers are open and you can be able to call in and make your contribution. So, Mr. Mumba, what do you make of those children that have actually attended to the trainings but still find themselves on the streets, as you saw in the story?
Yes, it's an interesting story. What I make of it is that a lot still needs to be done, to be put in place in terms of preparedness, and also try to also provide a comprehensive approach to this particular challenge, and also to make the colleagues there be ready with the efforts that are being put in place. Number one, and this is what the lessons that we have learned moving forward, that when we take them to such type of facilities, we should be able to provide the tools, the means, So that whatever they've learned there, they should be able to go and begin utilizing those particular efforts. And this is the more reason why, if you look at the contributions that we have done as a ministry over the Constituency Development Fund, that we're also very pleased with, is that we have said there's also this particular problem in society, which is right in the communities.
Okay.
And what is the missing gap? The tools, the startup kits for whatever lessons that would love. We can take them, I take those facilities, but if we don't provide the means, it's true, they may end up coming back onto the street. And if we provide that particular means, it will be very easy to enforce, like I mentioned, the Juveniles Act, because you need to be ready to provide the means and enforce whatever legislation and what is happening. So this is why when I spoke about the grant that we're having for next year, for example, I think it's meant for us to be able to do this particular thing. We have done it before, but the scale has not been much such that it can absorb almost everyone. So we are hoping the next year's budget will go miles ahead than we have done it before.
Let's talk about the approach that the government has used before and what you intend to be using in terms of just bringing back these children. How forceful is it, or how convincingly is it to just convince a child to say, you don't belong here, you belong somewhere better?
Yeah, it's not forcefulness, it's basically simple social work approaches. We have got a mechanism which we call case management. First of all, we have got volunteers whom we send onto the streets. They begin engaging with them, discussing with them.
Okay.
That's why when they are going there, they are very free. They will jump into buses and be taken to those facilities. And we've got a facility in Chikumbi where we would take them for some screening purposes to determine who is who, or what type of support would be needed, which facility would they go. Do they have those with parents? Where are they? So those parents are also contacted. Because this part of information, it will also require the involvement of the family.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we do all those screening processes, and then we end up taking them to these particular facilities, and then they begin learning. Yeah. So it's largely voluntary. But when we are to, for example, the other side of it, what we invoke the law, that's why it will be mandatory, right? Mandatory in the sense that according to the Juveniles Act, Section 8 in particular, it defines a child, it defines a street child, someone who is loitering, wandering on the streets. And the law provides that every child must be accompanied by another adult. So if a child is not accompanied by an adult on the street, they are not supposed to be there. So the law provides that you can take them out, you can remove them. So ourselves, juvenile inspectors, could embark on that removal and integration. The council police or the council authority can embark on that particular process, and the police themselves can embark on that particular process. Such that if you see any child who is alone, not being accompanied, you have the right to say, come on, take them, hand them over to the juvenile inspectors, call the parents. If that child has neglected, been on the street, because the family did not provide that care and protection, you can even institute legal proceedings against that particular family. That is provided for in the Juveniles Act. So this is why we're saying that from the Juveniles Inspectorate point of view, if we begin doing that, I'm sure there will be that sense of responsibility as families. Where is the child? Where is he going? So they don't just go onto the street. Once we are dealing with this data.
So does that mean whenever, as a citizen, I see a child in town, I should be able to?
Yes, you can. The law is there. In fact, what we intend to do, that's what will come next year. What we intend to do is that we're going to have a series of meetings, particularly markets, because this is where we see a lot of these children. So those market committees in markets, we're going to have a meeting with them, sensitize them, the provisions of this particular piece of legislation. Shop owners, we're going to engage them and explain to them. So that when you see this particular child, and we'll give you our details where we are found, you can pick that child and take that child to the Department of Social Welfare. This is where we've got those facilities, child care facilities.
Okay.
This is where we've got, we'll determine depending on the type of the child.
So from there, the child is questioned.
We'll screen. determine
the parents.
If it is negligence on the part of the family or the parents, we can take them to court. And under Section 73 of the Juveniles Act provides remedies which the court can pronounce itself on. They are also there. The law is there.
Okay. From the story, we noticed that they are quite even bigger, like older street adults, you can term them. But these are the people who started out as street kids in the first place. Is there a provision to also address that age group?
Yes, if you look at the phenomenon of street child in Zambia, it dates back to the structural adjustment program days, early 90s, right? In fact, history has it that the first street child was discovered in Mufulira district.
But that's my town, apparently.
But it came from, that's your town.
Yeah.
You are lucky you are not. You are lucky you are not one of them.
I didn't know about that. Quite surprising. Maybe it's because of the mine.
Yeah, but again, it was discovered. Migration. But it was discovered that child came from our largest compound, Makululu in Kawe.
Oh,
yes. So that's the history. Now, if you look at the 90s to date, those who were street children at that time, some of them were 14, 13. How old are they? Oh, they are now youth. And this is why to deal with this particular problem of street children and the street adults, it's not one ministry challenge. It's ourselves, Ministry of Community and Social Services, Ministry of Youth, Sports and Arts, our colleagues, Home Affairs, Defense, because it also poses security risks, so to speak. Yeah. So this is why, as government, we are ready to embark on what else can we do different to what we have done before, so that we can try and deal with this particular child. If you know, I'm sure I've observed.
Just hold your thought, Mr. Mumba. Let's attend to this call. Good morning.
Good morning. Hello.
Yes, hello. You are through to Camnet Breakfast Show. Your name and where are you calling us from?
My name is David and I'm calling from Houston.
Thank you. You can go ahead with your contribution, sir.
Okay, so I'd like to ask Mr. Mumba a question. Mr. Mumba, sir, what do you do with the street kids? Are the street kids supposed to follow you, or are you guys supposed to follow them to talk to them and help them out?
Okay. There you have it, Mr. Mumba. Thank you for that question. Do you follow the street kids, or the street kids have to follow you to your offices? How is it done? He asks.
It's done both ways. They know our offices, they know us very well, they do come. And we also go onto the streets and all the public places where we follow them, engage them, and try to reintegrate them, try to take them to these facilities. So it's done both ways. We are friends,
okay,
so to speak.
So you actually know each other?
They know us. Oh. We know them.
Okay.
Yes. So
then that gets me to the question: don't you think you're making the streets conducive for them if they feel we're okay with it, and the government is okay with it?
No, not that it's okay with it. I'm not saying we are okay with it. This is why we do remove and integrate them, because it is not okay. And we're not making the street.
Meaning they're not comfortable.
Yeah. What is making the street comfortable is what we do as people. As government, we have put billboards all over. Don't give arms. But we still see, even if me, when I'm driving, I see people giving arms. The best we can do as a country is to know where is Social Welfare Department, where is the Ministry of Community Development and Social Services. Take that support that you want to provide that particular street child there to those particular offices. Through our social protection intervention, we would be able now to provide the services to where they are supposed to be. For example, it would be easy for us to buy the startup kits, so that by the time they are leaving national service, we already have tools. It's carpentry, is it fish farming, general agriculture, name it. Because at least we would have also something that could fall back on, that would come from members of the public. I think, you see, in other countries, this is how they help to deal with these particular children. Because the way we do it in our country, we are also perpetuating this particular vice. We may think we are doing good, but we are also perpetuating. This is what makes the streets conducive for them.
Okay.
Sometimes I would find them myself, because I'm Commissioner for Juvenile Welfare. I would call my colleagues at the district office, go at such a place, I found such a situation. They will go there, including our child protection unit. You know, I've got child protection unit under Cyber Police, which is based at our ministry headquarters. Where we feel the situation needs some level of security, they would also come in. Then we'll remove them and take them. So for me, if I'm to make an honest appeal, is to appeal to the general public that let that support be provided to established organizations. Let it be the ministry, community development, let it be social services, or those orphanages closer to you, because those we monitor them, we supervise them. They would be able to embark on these particular activities with them and be able to remove them, because they continue being there. Because we are giving in those particular apps.
How bad is the situation of street kids in terms of numbers? Do we have any numbers are we improving in curbing, or maybe it's becoming worse?
You see, because of poverty, we are still seeing more and more children coming onto the streets. Some, they come on the street not because there is poverty in a home or there is abuse. Probably they see some level of vocation there, you know. Others could be as a result of delinquency. You know, they've just rebelled from those particular homes and they have become refractory juveniles or children, so to speak, and they will be on the streets. And so really the situation, but in my opinion, strongest opinion, if we can put up the public can entrust us government institutions to deal with it and give us all the necessary support that is required, I'm of the strongest opinion that we can try and manage the situation. I know in other countries they have said it's quite difficult, complex, so on and so forth, but I think we have got good programs, good programming, which we can easily justify to say on the basis of this is the alternative, and this is the route, so there is no need of this. For example, what we are seeing there, some of them, they appeared intoxicated, isn't it? We have got our colleagues, Drug Enforcement Commission, they do rehabilitate. You get the point? So they can come in and see how best they can do to rehabilitate those in that state, and we've done it before. So I think these are the collaborative and concerted efforts that are required, but it will require huge resources for us to do that comprehensively.
So I mean, it's quite practical to get them. We're not wasting funds here.
No, I'm of strongest opinion that it's practical and it's not a waste of resources. Because you see, if we assume it to be a waste of resources, 10, 15 years from now, what would happen? It would be what would be worse off.
Okay.
Than if.
So better deal with it now.
We better deal with it now. The public comes up and say, okay, this is what we want done. This is how we'll do it. Think about it. For example, the example I was giving. If market committees do not allow children anyhow, you get the point, these children will stay in the compounds, in the homes, isn't it? We now as a government would be able now to go into the communities and deal with whatever problems that exist there. Mind you, now we also have the Constituency Development Fund that has gone to their doorstep in terms of resolving social problems that exist there, isn't it?
Sure.
So what would stop us as government to deal with this particular problem? For me, it's about putting our heads together, it's about collaborating, it's about mobilizing sufficient resources.
Talking of information, how much have you done in terms of sensitizing, and how much do you intend to do going forward?
Yes, that's a very, very important question, and that's what we need to invest more as a country. Because everyone, everywhere has become an expert in this country on any subject. And it's good, persons like yourselves have called us to come and explain and articulate. Because let the people, let the voices of experts be heard.
Okay, yeah.
So that we are able to explain things and how things could work. You get the point? In terms of sensitization, we've tried. I'm sure we've appeared. We have been appearing on so many media, radio programs. There are programs that we have been speaking about family integration, strengthening families, fighting gender-based violence. Because all these are the sources that brings these particular causes. And we have been explaining about these things as a ministry, including our partners, civil society organizations that have been doing these things. And of course, a lot more still needs to be done. But I think we have tried to explain and articulate all these things. What we need is to continue doing what we are doing so that at least almost everyone, this particular messaging can reach out to everyone. If everyone understands to say, oh, I want to give an arm. I mean, I've been told that go to social welfare or go to community vote. Probably as I go back, I will talk to my bosses, the PS and the minister. You know, the best thing, people might not find the time to walk or come here and bring whatever somebody wants to bring. Because now there's Airtel, there's MTN. Maybe we should engage. We open those lines where people could just post, and then we should be able to publish on a quarterly basis for transparency purposes what we have received and how we have utilized it, how many institutions we have supported, and allow people to come through. I think in that way we can also induce, I think, confidence in the general public. But in my strongest opinion, if we can take such type of approaches, I'm of the strongest opinion that we will be on a good trajectory as a country to deal with this particular stage.
Surprisingly enough, poverty has become more prominent in terms of factors causing streetism. But we also noticed that some children are actually coming from good, well-doing families, you know, and just to investigate the source and everything, we find that it's actually some even in prominent figures, government officials, those who are having maybe a niece or a child. They say, how do you deal with such situation where you are investigating and then you find that this child is actually coming from a very big person in society?
Yes, and that's what I said, that it's not always poverty that causes these children to be on the street. These are the ones that could be refractory juveniles. They've just rebelled. Sometimes not about rebelling, but even as parents who have simply spoiled them. We think we are doing good, giving them money, giving all sorts of things, but those things also exposes them to a different world or different context. So what we do ourselves, this is why we have got institutions for rehabilitation, care and rehabilitation. We have got Nakambara approved school in Mazabuka for boys. We have got INSAP, we approved the school for girls in Ndola. So when we discover that this particular child cannot stay in that home or community, the best option is to remove this particular child to concentrate on the rehabilitation process without those interferences that are there. We would go to court and get a court order and take them to those particular facilities. There where they go, we have got our social workers and psychologists. They begin now rehabilitating these particular children. Once we have done that, we now work on those particular homes to help them. What they did wrong.
What sort of help are we talking about? Financial or maybe psychological?
We are talking about well-to-do families, so financial will not be the case.
Will not be the case.
But those not well-to-do families, financial will be the case. So if we see, let me start with those who are not well-to-do. If it's financial, for example, we'll look at what it causes them. We find probably maybe they're not on social cash transfer, they could have missed out, and they qualify based on the government criteria to be on social cash transfer program. Who would ensure that that is done? Okay. Secondly, there could be empowerment programs, women empowerment, supporting women livelihood. Public welfare scheme, if they were failing to pay for the school fees, we have got keeping in girls in school. We have got also programs such as youth empowerment, name them, who would be able to provide those particular linkages. If we think we can adjust, alter the situations, that particular environment in a home, we will not get a court order to take these particular juveniles, those particular institutions. Or instead get a court order for them to be within those particular homes, that particular community or residence, and provide rehabilitation services there. That is what is called being placed on supervision or being placed on probation. Then they are under our supervision, excuse me, they are under our supervision as probation officers, as juvenile inspectors, to provide that particular guidance. Now for the parents, those who want to do, this is how we prepare them to adjust certain things which they do. If we feel this particular home is where there's a problem, it's not conducive, we investigate where else can this child be taken apart from this particular household where there's guaranteed care and protection. Now, even if you as the father or mother, you will not agree with me, I can overrule your decision by going to court and get a court order and remove the child from you and take that child to where I feel this particular child will be better placed. We can get those court orders. We have gone further as government to develop what we call good parenting handbook. They are there, we have them at the ministry.
Okay.
These are very good pieces of material that helps people to understand how best to bring up these particular children. What are the pros and cons?
Someone can just come and collect.
Yes, they can come and collect. We have tried to distribute them to districts.
Okay.
Those are free of charge. We don't charge them.
Okay.
They are providing basic knowledge on how best. Those that are there, they have no families, for example. We've got what we call alternative care. Alternative care is where we know the family no longer exists. We cannot trace anyone. We cannot provide care in those particular homes. We will now take them into what we call foster homes or adoptive homes. Again, we carry out the investigations. Once we conclude this is the best option, then we proceed like that. Whatever decision we do, what is paramount is the best interest of the child. Not my best interest, not your best interest, not the best interest of the parent, but the best interest of the child. That's what is paramount, and that's how we make our decisions.
Okay, talking of just foster homes, which could be one of the solutions really to get rid of streetism, and people might be willing to really get in a child to stay with them and groom them, and take them to school. But I don't know how much you provide in terms of monitor how best the child is living and the behavioral changes. Because on a side note, we just lost a healthy practitioner in Kaamba who actually kept a child from a young stage, but allegedly murdered the person. How safe are these homes, and how much do you monitor the stay of these children in their homes?
Yes, these homes are safe because we carry out thorough investigations. That does not mean that those circumstances may not happen. We live in an evolving world, so complex, so to speak. But we try as much as possible. For example, if I'm to come and make an assessment to you about this, about you being a conducive foster parent, I'll be interested in your medical history and situation, right?
Okay.
I'll be interested in your background. Where do you come from? Who are you? What type of life do you lead? I go deeper than you think. Sometimes we discover about you which you thought were secrets, but we're able to tell.
Okay.
If you that deep. Yes, we do.
Okay.
That the law provides us to do that. For example, I'll give you very interesting. During my career, I refused to process an adoption case. This particular family, a very strong, wanted, discovered that the history of not to discriminate, but at some point we're at Chinama, so to speak, and there was that recurrence. So lapses. So I realized that when lapses, the child is there, what happens? So on that basis, I couldn't make the recommendations.
Okay.
And years later on, that particular woman unfortunately even committed suicide. So I told myself, I said, what could have happened if the child was there? So you see, we do that.
So that's from the parent side. But what
parent side.
The child.
I'm coming.
Okay.
Parent side. We also go to your employers. What do they know about you? What information do they tell us? Then we also go to the police. Do you have any criminal record? They will give me, if I've got any fingerprints or whatever, they'll tell me about yourself. When you collect all this information, then I'll have a complete data about you, which I can tell the court, or I can tell you without going to court to say, sorry, we don't think we can proceed with this particular case. Probably let's try this and that, and to find a way of giving you explanations. On the part of the child, where is this child? Where has he come from? I'll hear the child. Where did you come from? What are the names of your parents? Where do they stay? Where do they live? I'll try to go and check. We'll contact the police. We have such type of a child. Do you have any record where someone has recorded that they are missing a child and they're looking for a child? And let me take this advantage to appeal to the general public that when you have lost a child or a relative, especially children, get in touch with our social care department. Okay. Because all the children that are in these child care facilities or orphanages, as you speak to them, we have a database. So if you go to police, they will tell you to say, well, I'm not too sure. Come to social care department. We will check with all our child care facilities as well as you give us the accurate information. Was us, we don't want these children to be in those facilities. Institutionalization of children, according to government policy, is the measure of the last resort. We want them to be in the homes, in the community. Homes, I mean family homes and communities. This is why those, whether adults or children that we keep in institutions, it being orphanages or old people's homes, we don't give them social cash transfer. We don't. Because that is provided for to be within the community. So that we provide community and family care. There are a lot of advantages to it. But that will be a subject for another debate. So we would investigate on this particular child. Where has this child come from? The police, in case they received any record of this particular child, how that child ended up on the street, we'll follow the leads. Where we're able to take the leads, then we investigate and check, and we'll find that we'll trace families. And we have traced a lot of families and reunited these particular children. Where we have been unable to trace them beyond the reasonable doubt, we have tried all means, checked all the facilities, our network, all the district officers. That's where they now would say, okay, fine. Those that are willing to foster this particular child can foster. Those that are willing to adopt this particular child can adopt this particular child. That's what we do.
Okay, is the government able to capture all the children in the country? And how many numbers are we talking about going forward? Capturing in the country in terms of to these facilities? Yes, putting them, it could be foster houses, or maybe the last resort that you mentioned, the orphanages and other. Yeah. Are we able to have a situation where we capture all of them?
The best capturing is to capture them and take them to their families and communities. Because foster homes is voluntary. It depends on you willing to take care of this particular child. You get the point? And also the child care facilities that we have, they also have capacity. And this is why our colleagues that are running these particular facilities, we insist not for these children to overstay in these particular facilities. Immediately a child is brought into this particular facility, they must develop an integration plan detailing where this child has come from, how they intend to keep that particular child there, how they are going to take steps to take that particular child out of this particular facility to integration, for integration. And we have established child care facility. I mean, we have established committees in this particular, in all the districts, to be able to take these cases before that particular committee, make assessments. What is happening in that particular institution? How about that institution? How many children? In the past, we had a problem where we are overkeeping these children in this particular facility. Some of them have become adults. Now we are talking about establishing independent living homes. You get the point? Because we have realized that some of these children, they are now adults. They can't continue being there. So they have to go and live independent in the community. So we have that program where we take them to the communities and begin helping them, facilitating for them to live independently outside these particular child facilities. This is why now integration of all children that have gone to these particular facilities is paramount to all the child care facilities.
As we just go towards winding up, I would love to know some of the programs that you've put specifically for these places that are outside. To start with the famous post offices, those children who are at the post offices, and other parts of the country in terms of just retrieving those children. Are there any programs specifically set by the ministry?
The programs that we have are not necessarily for these particular places. We know these are the places that they stay much of their time, where they interact from.
Even actually sleeping there.
Yes, even sleeping. And this is why I'm saying that we are just waiting for the budget to pass.
Okay.
Immediately this particular budget passes, I spoke about us having vigorous committees, markets, shops, ShopRite itself, all of those. Why do we want to do that? We want to explain to them what we are going to do as government and why we are doing that, and establish contacts between them and us.
Okay.
So that if they again see these particular children, they are able to call us.
Okay.
And we are able to go there. And we are able to manage the situation of children flooding or flocking onto the streets. We believe the best way out is to make sure that these children are in the families and in the communities. By so doing, we are going to exercise more care and protection as adults. Remember our tradition. Every child belongs to every person. Yes, you could be the biological father, the mother, but that's the child for everyone. And that's what we are promoting. And we commemorate International Day of the Family as a country, as government. Why we do that is to inculcate these family and community values. So we'll continue inculcating family and community values in our societies so that we are able to. The biggest grouping that tries to take care of these particular children, you agree with me, are older persons. And we have an aging policy. And through the aging policy and organizations that are looking after older persons, we also want to see how best do we reactivate that spirit of Ubuntu that we have known ourselves of doing. What is making these older persons not to do what they were doing? Because we know they have also been stressed. These are the programs that we will be embarking on and coming on.
So we wait for the budget.
Certainly, because we need to provide resources to the districts to move. They'll need fuel.
Sure. Maybe one of your last really closing remarks today, especially to the general public, those who might be watching us from here. What would be the word of even appeal to them in terms of just collaborating with the government to address that situation?
Yes, my biggest appeal as government is that let the public come forth and partner with us. I think I've spoken about how we can try and deal with this particular situation. With the support of the public, our concerted efforts, and everyone else, we believe we should be able to deal with this particular situation. We'll find means and ways to reach out to the general public in terms of those that have got the support, how they could do it. But off cuff, if currently you can go to any district social welfare office or even ministry headquarters, would be able to receive you, welcome you, and we should be able to get your support and see how best we can deal with these particular children. I think for me is to appeal to the general public to get involved. Let's deal with this problem together, because government alone certainly will not manage it, even if we can have those particular resources. But we need the support of the community out there. Say, no, you and where are you going? You're not supposed to go. Can you go back? Remember when we were growing up ourselves, an adult person, a teacher especially, if he's coming, he's passing, who could stand still, isn't it? Until the teacher passes, that's when you start working. But today you are just crisscrossing. Those were very critical values of bringing sanity.
How do one really access the Ministry of Community Development and Social Services? What's a communication channel if they want to get to you?
Thank you very much. In terms of physical location, Ministry headquarters is at Community House. This is, others they call it, former Namibian Institute, on the western side of Levy-Mall. That's where we are. Next to government printers and Zesco, there we're in between.
Okay.
Our district offices are dotted. We are in each and every district. So whoever want to find out where is the Department of Social Welfare or Ministry of Community Development and Social Services, we are in each and every district. Within the communities out there, we have got volunteers called Community Welfare Assistance Committees. They are very handy, very valuable. They would be able to help you where we are found and what we do as government. We also have community development assistants in wards who can also be contacted. We should be able to reach out. We are also on Facebook as a ministry, and we also have a ministerial website that we could also be reached on. And of course, if you go to Telephone Directorate, there are our phone numbers that are there, and also even on social internet, some of our phone numbers are also there. You could easily reach us as well.
That was Mr. Kennedy Mumba. Mr. Kennedy is a Commissioner for Juvenile Welfare and Director for Social Welfare at the Ministry of Community Development and Social Services. So he was just, unpacking various complex issues that need to be understood by the general public, and also what the government intends to do going forward in addressing streetism and also adult those people living on the streets. And we hope the better, as we come next, Mr. Mumba should be able to have now reviewing the results and how best we've worked in the process. We apologize we couldn't have Ms. Moya Bridget, who is also a director for child development, for circumstances beyond our controls, and next time we hope we'll have her on board as well. So that was here from Camnet TV Breakfast Show, strictly community desk, with me, your host, Alex Shimba, discussing streetism and better yet, hoping for the better in our streets across the country. So we had first segment representative from the civil society organization, that was CSPR, Madam Muliza, was coordinator program for children. And also we have the ministry themselves from the government perspective explaining their side of how best we can handle the situation. So with me here, we unfortunately come to a close of our breakfast show. We've had a good time here. I hope we'll do even the same tomorrow as we unpack other issues related to our country. With me, your host, Alex Shimba. It's bye-bye for now.